In this video, we'll try to understand what exactly is the use of yield keyword and in what scenarios we should be using the yield keyword. Let me summarize the use of yield keyword in one sentence. Yield keyword helps us to do custom iteration, custom stateful iteration over a collection. Okay, now that statement is tough to understand, right? So let me simplify it. There are two basic uses of yield keyword. First, when you want to do custom iteration, and second one, when you want to do stateful iteration. So let me start with scenario number one, custom iteration. So here's a simple example I have. You can see that I have a simple console application here. And in this console application, I have a list here called as my list. Now this list is a numeric list. So you can see that it has numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And what I'm doing is, I have populated this list in a function called as fill values. And I'm calling this fill values, as soon as the static void main function runs. And then what I'm doing is I'm just going and iterating through this my list over here. So if I run this program here, it will just go and display me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So a very simple program here. It has my list. In that I have added numbers, right? And that number I'm browsing through the static void main. For now, let's visualize this static void main as a caller who actually calls the my list and gets the data. Okay, and you will understand the importance why I'm telling you to visualize static void main as a caller later, right? So we have a very simple application here, and the caller actually calls this my list and he displays this data 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now let me go and complicate this situation a bit. Now let's say that the caller wants to only display data which is greater than 3. So how do we go about doing it? So logically what many developers do is, they actually go and write a function like this called as filter. And in this filter, they go and create a temporary list like this called as temp. Then they go and browse through the list and they say that if the value is greater than 3, then go and add into this temporary list and return this temporary list, to the caller. And then what I can do here is I can go and call this filter function here. And once a caller calls my filter function, you can see that he has now browsed the values which are greater than 3, right? But now there is a problem here. The problem is this temporary list. It would be great, if you can write this filtering logic without using this temporary list. And that's where exactly, yield will help us. So the first thing what I'll do here is I'll get rid of this list over here, and I'll get rid of this return over here, and over here we'll just go and add yield return I. That's it. So now if I do a control F5 here, you can see that it returns me 4 and 5, which is nothing but these are numbers which are greater than 3. All right. But now let me explain you internally what exactly happens. When we use the yield keyword internally, the control moves from the caller to the source and from source to the caller to and fro. Let me explain you step by step. So in the first step, the caller makes a call to the collection and it takes the first item and says, is 1 greater than 3? No, it is not greater than 3. It goes to the second item, is 2 greater than 3? No, it is not. Third item. Now when it encounters the fourth item, it says, is 4 greater than 3? Yes, 4 is greater than 3. And from here it says yield return. The time it gets this keyword or this sentence yield return, right, the control moves back to the caller. The caller then displays the same on the console and then it re-enters. Look at this step 3. It again re-enters into the function, right? But, this time it remembers, that he has already browsed 4 elements. So it has to start from the 5th element, right? And it again starts a comparison. Is 5 greater than 3? Yes, it is. Again, it goes back to the caller. Again, console.writeLine. In other words, when you use the yield keyword, the control moves back and forth from the caller to the source and from source to the caller. Now what I'll do is, let me go back in the code and let me show you this complete to and fro movement, by using the debug mode. So let me put a debug point here in the console.writeLine and let me put a debug point in this yield return over here, or I'll say in this if condition. Okay, so let me start. So the function enters right into this filter, and first value is 1. Is 1 greater than 3? No. Second, is 2 greater than 3? No. Is 3 greater than 3? No. Is 4 greater than 3? Yes, it is greater than 3. So from here he says yield return. Now watch here. Now from here he will actually again go back to the static void main. So here it is. You can see now it has moved. The control has moved back to the caller, that is to static void main. He has displayed the value 4 here, and again he re-enters. Can you see he has again re-entered this function filter, and he's taking the fifth element. Is 5 greater than 3? Yes, it is. Again from here the control goes back to the caller, he displays it, and again he re-enters and finally finishes. So in this way, when we use the yield keyword, the control moves from the caller to the source, and from source back to the caller, to and fro. So when we started this video, we said that the use of yield keyword is to do stateful custom iteration. So this was a simple example of a custom iteration. Now let's try to see an example of stateful iteration using yield keyword. So in order to understand stateful iteration, let's take up the same collection, that is from 1 to 5. And now let's say that we want to display running total. Running total means, as we move, from element to element, we would like to display the total of the elements we have browsed till now. Means what? For example, we start with value 1, so the total is 1. We move to the second element, so it is 1 plus 2, that is 3, running total. When we move to the third element, it is 1 plus 2 plus 3, that is 6. When we move to the fourth element, it is 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, that is 10. So in this way, as we browse through the elements, we want to display the running total. Now again here, when we are displaying this running total, we don't want to use the temporary collection. We want to keep our code simple. So how can we do this? By using the yield keyword. So here's a simple function I have created called as running total, and this running total uses the yield keyword. So you can see over here, I have created a temporary variable here called as running total. And what this running total does is, this variable actually accumulates value as it moves through each element. Okay. And whatever is the current running total, it actually returns back. Very easy, right? Now, if you watch here very closely, what it means is that whenever the caller enters his running total again and again, this value has to be preserved, right? This value has to be preserved. In other words, as it iterates through each element, the previous value of the running total has to be preserved. And yield does that. In other words, if I go and browse this, so if I say here running total, right? Let me put a debug point here. Okay. Let me move this at the top so that we can see the complete thing in one go. Right. So here's our caller, static void main. It is now making a call to the running total function, right? And let me do a F5 so that it starts. So you can see it has first re-entered. So first running total is 0, that is right. It takes the first element, adds that element into the running total. So the running total value is 1, moves again back to the caller, displays it. Again it re-enters. Watch this. It has again re-entered. This time it is taking the element 2, right? But look at the value of running total. The value of running total is 1. In other words, it has preserved the value of running total, right? So again, running total 1 plus the current element 2, right? So that should be value 3. So that is 3 value. Again, the control goes back to the caller. The caller displays it. Again, it re-enters. You can see it has preserved the previous value 3, and it is now going to add this 3. So that is 3 plus 3, 6. And in this way, it goes and displays all the value on the console application, all the running total on the console application, right? There it is, 1, 3, 6, 10 and 15. So in other words, the other use of yield keyword is when you want to do stateful iteration. So next time when someone asks you what is the use of yield keyword, there are two basic uses of yield keyword. One is when you want to do custom iteration without using a temporary collection, and second, when you want to do stateful iteration. And one point I also want to make here is that basically when you go and browse using IEnumerable or iQueryable, right, those browsings are stateless. In other words, for example, when you do a for each through IEnumerable, it does not store state. It just fast forwards and moves, right? But here, when you use the yield keyword, you have the option of saving the state as well. So I hope that this video was useful. In this video, we were trying to understand what is the use of yield keyword. Thank you so much.